Welcome, college football fans, to the Triple Option College Football Week 11 Prediction Show. I'm Mikey Britt, alongside Blake Thomason, and as well we've got Alex Humble.
Rumor has it incarcerated Bob is up for the Pulitzer Prize for reporting.
Point shaving, Jameis. I did.
All right. So this episode, we're gonna look at the biggest games of the weekend. We'll start off with Oregon and Utah. So this was looking to be a top 10 matchup until Utah lost last week, but it's still huge for the Ducks. Going on the road in Utah, it's a tough place. Alex can tell you all about how rowdy it is in Utah. This is going to be a big test for the Ducks. Utah is leading the nation in sacks, and as we know, Oregon's had some troubles with their offensive line, so that'll be something to watch. The Ducks' pass protection versus the Utes' pass rush. All in all, though, I think that the Ducks should have an edge in this game. They have been healthier on the offensive line, and Marcus Mariota has just been playing sensationally. I just don't think that Utah has the horses on offense to keep up with the Ducks. Devontae Booker is good, but the quarterback play has just been downright awful the past few weeks. Look for Mariota to have a big day. They have a good offensive game plan. They should be able to get the ball out of Mariota's hands quick to avoid that sack leading team that Utah has. I like Oregon big in this one.
Yeah, the Ducks can clinch the Pac-12 North as soon as they win a ball game for the remainder of the season. Going into this ball game, one thing, and I say this a lot, maybe not on the show, but I'm constantly thinking it. Marcus needs to be selfish. If guys are breaking through the line, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him roll out. I'd like to see calls by Scott Frost to do that. And also just stepping up in the pocket. The line's looking good, though. The line's all set up. I think big Andre Iguodala is going to be starting back in that right tackle. He's actually the backup right tackle, but it's good to have him back because he's a good player. He's a big-time recruit, actually. He's been 150. The Ducks have lost 4 games in Marcus Mariota's career as a starter, and 3 of those Marcus was sacked 3+ times. So that's a big shake-up if Utah can get to the quarterback. Real quick, I want to note that Oregon is now Vegas's favorite to win the title. I think it's because they have a pretty easy road the rest of the way, not counting the Pac-12 title game. And this won't be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. But I think they have 2 pretty easy wins with Colorado and Oregon State, and they've just come out looking really strong ever since they lost to Arizona. I bet the Ducks.
It's not typical where you have the key matchup in a game between an offensive tackle and a defensive end, but I think the way this game is going to go is going to be between the matchup between Nate Orchard, the defensive end for Utah, who's their sack leader with, I believe, 12.5 sacks, and Jay Fisher at left tackle, the savior of the season so far. If Fisher's able to keep Nate Orchard at bay, that should really, give Marcus the time that he needs to pick apart that Utah defense, which has been pretty vaunted, and they've lived up to those expectations throughout the course of the season. The loss last week was definitely not their fault. The offense didn't show up pretty much at all in Tempe last week. So I really don't see a way Utah can win this game unless it's one real ugly football game. And Utah has been known to make it ugly. They were successful last week. They almost pulled it out in Tempe. But sometimes when teams kind of run out of that magic, you start to think, they lost a close one for the first time really last week, besides that Washington State game a while back before they had this kind of magical run where they barely squeak out that UCLA win. They win in overtime in Corvallis. They win against USC in the final seconds. So it'll be interesting to see how Utah rebounds. I just don't see the offense having the firepower to keep up with Oregon for 4 quarters. I could see the game being close for a half or for maybe into the third quarter with the way that Utah defense can play, but I don't think you can shut down Mariota to the point where you're going to allow that Utah offense to score enough points to win the ball game. And Travis Wilson, 119 passing yards his last 2 road games, not getting the job done at all. I wonder if Kyle Whittingham will go with the multiple quarterback set that he was kind of showing earlier in the season. We saw it in the UCLA game, haven't really seen it since. But if Utah's offense can't move the ball like they had the last couple weeks, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how well their defense plays because we know Oregon's gonna score more than 28 points. Can Utah's offense do the same? That's going to be the question. And fortunately for me, I was able to get some time in between my Tinder dates to where I could actually attend the game. So I'm excited to watch that game firsthand tomorrow night. I got the Ducks by 2 touchdowns.
I want to just take a second and pause and think about Devontae Booker in this game because Oregon's 2 losses last year came from punishing running backs that were always falling forward. Oregon was never able to stop them for less than 4 yards. Tyler Gaffney and Kadeem Carey. So this year, I think stopping the run, making sure Utah can't keep away would be very important. Especially
That's a great point. That is a great point because I think Oregon really hasn't had that running test, that test of a team that really runs the ball. Like that's their identity. I think people might get the notion misconstrued that Stanford's a running team this year. They're not. They really haven't been able to establish the run like they had in years past. And Daniel Lafko had over 100 yards running for Cal against Oregon a couple weeks ago, which allowed Cal to really be balanced and move the ball well against that Oregon defense. So I think if Devontae Booker can get it going in the running game, it might open some things up for Travis Wilson in the offense, but I don't know. They're just so dependent on that running game. I don't see how Oregon won't be able to stop it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think we all have Oregon big, but however, in the past few years, Oregon has been in position to get to the title game, and they've kind of laid an egg. So if it was going to happen this year, it would probably be this one, given the schedule ahead. Moving on, staying in the Pac-12, as you guys mentioned, Arizona State. They have a big game against Notre Dame at home. These two teams played last year as well. It's an interesting matchup. Looks like it would probably be a shootout, just given each team's offense. But Arizona State's defense has stepped up the past few weeks since they had that horrendous showing against UCLA where they gave out 62. Notre Dame's been really good on offense, like I said, but on defense, it's been a different story. They've really just had to lean on Everett Golson to win games for them. Last week, he had a record-setting performance, 6 touchdowns against Navy, but they gave up 39. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think Arizona State is even better than Navy or a team like North Carolina who put up 43. I think that Arizona State at home, I think they'll be able to take advantage of Notre Dame's defense, despite Notre Dame getting some players back from suspension. I think that this will be the game where Everett Golson's back kind of breaks from carrying the team. I like Arizona State in a close, kind of ugly win.
This I'm really looking forward to this one. Arizona State, the last time they beat a top 10 team was in 2002 against my Oregon Ducks. Quite a ways away, but now they're in the top 10. So we'll see what they can do. They're looking to come out of the Pac-12 South. They have big goals, and it's kind of exciting to see the maturation of Taylor Kelly. Honestly, ASU probably has a tougher road to make the playoffs than Notre Dame this year. ASU will have to play Oregon. Notre Dame plays USC, but I think it'll be a much easier road for Notre Dame to perhaps sneak in, get that 4 seed if they win this ball game. It'll be really big. Just the quarterback play, I think, will determine this one. I think Everett Golson is a little bit better player, but I think ASU is a little bit better team. So uh, I think Taylor Kelly and his weapons will help him out, and they'll get the job done. I'll take ASU.
There's a lot of interesting matchups in this game as well. Something big to note is senior linebacker for Notre Dame, former walk-on and kind of team captain, Joe Schmidt. He's out for the season now with an ankle injury, and he was kind of the heart and soul of that defense. And so they have a true freshman, Niles Morgan, stepping in this week. So that's something big to watch. But one of my favorite players in the whole country is on that Notre Dame defense, Jalen Smith, the sophomore linebacker. He's a surefire first-round NFL talent, and as far as I know, his girlfriend is real. So I really like what he did in the Florida State game. He's all over the field, and I think he's going to be all over the field tomorrow night. As far as the Notre Dame offense, Everett Golson's a great player, but he's turnover prone, which makes me hesitant to take Notre Dame in a big game on the road. But you saw how Everett Golson played in that big game against Florida State. He really should have won the game, and he did. He did basically everything right to win that game. He had one interception, and he didn't fumble the ball, which has been his bugaboo all year. And then we talk about the Arizona State defense. And Arizona State's kind of still a mystery to me. They had that UCLA game, which it looked like everyone was about to write them off. They had the fluky USC Hail Mary win where the USC secondary they were waiting for Christmas. I don't know what was going on there. And then they beat Utah last week. But was that Utah's offensive incompetence, or was that Arizona State's defensive strength? I really don't know. As far as the Arizona State offense, I'm not a firm believer in Taylor Kelly. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, and I think he's going to make some big mistakes tomorrow night. I don't believe in Todd Graham's offense yet. I don't think they're ready for the spotlight. If they are going to get it done, it's going to be because of Jalen Strong, the stud wide receiver at Arizona State. He's so physically gifted. I talked about him in the recap show earlier this week. Taylor Kelly is going to have to lean on him to make some big plays. But I'm going to surprise you guys. I'm going to take Notre Dame with this pick. Notre Dame plays everyone close. Literally everyone on their schedule they played close this year. And so I'm not putting too much stock into that interesting game they played with Navy last week. They did the same thing against North Carolina the week before the Florida State game. We saw how they played against Florida State. I think that they're battle tested, and I think it's just the way they play, and I think they're going to get it done.
Yeah, if Everett Golson could have a big day like he's had, it certainly will. I think that'll boost them to a win, and it will definitely help his Heisman hopes. This is the kind of stage that he should be able to make some noise. Like Mikey said, Notre Dame doesn't have a whole lot of big games left, so this is kind of it in terms of a Heisman race.
And then lastly, Everett Golson has one loss in the regular season as a quarterback, and you can't discount that. And the one loss, I mean,
For someone who doesn't,
I'm silent about it. But a great pass interference call at the end of the game, and he could be undefeated in the regular season as a starting quarterback in his 2 years. So that's impressive.
as long as Jameis doesn't shave points, you might not lose the game.
Yeah, another player to watch in this one would be DJ Foster. Like we said, Notre Dame defense hasn't been as great. They've given up a lot of points. DJ Foster, talented all-around player. He could have a big day too if they key in on Jalen Strong. Moving on, staying out west, we have a big game in the Big 12, Kansas State and TCU. This is essentially the play-in game for the playoffs for these two teams. TCU, after this one, they have an easy road, so if they can get over this test, then they're most likely in to the playoff, or at least in consideration. I believe they have Texas, Kansas, and Iowa State left. Kansas State is a different story in terms of remaining schedule. They have road tests. They got West Virginia and Baylor. So this is just the first of many for Kansas State. In this game, though, I think that Kansas State will prevail. I think that they're consistent style of football under Bill Snyder. They control the ball, control the game, they're disciplined. I think that they'll be able to take advantage of the mistakes that TCU made where West Virginia wasn't able to. Um, TCU, their defense, we've all kind of known TCU to have a good defense under Gary Patterson, but this year at least they've really only been good at forcing turnovers, not necessarily holding or limiting teams to low amount of yards or points. And Kansas State is one of the best in keeping the football, not turning over, making mistakes. So if Kansas State can do that, I think that they'll be able to march on TCU all day. Um, Another thing to note is that TCU will be without running back BJ Catalon, so that'll just be another blow for TCU. It's going to put more weight on Javon Boykin's shoulders. As we saw last week, he didn't have that great of a game. A player to watch, I would have, Lockett is probably the best receiver on Kansas State, but Kevin White is an outstanding defensive back on TCU, and he should be covering him all day. So look for slot receiver Curry Sexton to have a big day for Kansas State. I like Kansas State by at least 2 touchdowns in this one, something like 35-21.
This game is going to showcase two really, really underappreciated coaches, as far as I can tell from national media. Bill Snyder and Gary Patterson. Remember, TCU would still be in the Mountain West without Gary Patterson, and Bill Snyder's done really well to get Kansas State out of a small town school, Little Manhattan there in Kansas, and they've become a really good, dominant program in the Big 12. This game, TCU is favored by 6.5 points. I'm going to take TCU, but I wouldn't take the points. I think Kansas State's going to play real tough. A few weeks ago when we started the show, I picked TCU to make the Final Four, so I just got to roll with them. But Kansas State looking really good. I just got to stick with what I said earlier in the season and take TCU. I think TCU is definitely, though, like you said, Blake, they're the Big 12's best chance to get into the playoffs. I think if Kansas State wins this, they're going to have their hands full, especially against Baylor on the road. They're going to put up points with the best of them. So, I could. Big 12 champion might have 2 losses, and they could be held out of the 14th playoff.
Let me just preface this by saying, isn't the Big 12 fun? Isn't it fun when you get a conference where every team plays every single other team in the conference? Because I feel like TCU the last couple weeks has just been playing all the big names in the Big 12, and it's been a lot of fun. Every single week there's been a lot of fun in the Big 12. And for me, just seeing kind of new teams at the top of the Big 12, not like Kansas State hasn't had success in the past or TCU hasn't had success in the past, but TCU hasn't had success in the Big 12 since they've joined. Kansas State had been down since Colin Klein left, which is only 2-3 years ago. And even Baylor. Baylor's kind of fresh to the top of the Big 12 scene. You kind of see the old hands, Texas and Oklahoma, taking them more of a backseat. But as far as this game is concerned, this is really a toss-up. Kansas State has a great defense, especially in Big 12 terms. They held Auburn to 20 points. You saw how the way their defense was kind of that bend but not break mentality in the Oklahoma game, where they were able to will out that victory. And they've just been really solid, and they haven't had that crazy shootout game that every Big 12 team seems to have. TCU's defense, same can't be said for them after that Baylor game, but they've still been impressive. They were able to force a ton of turnovers against West Virginia last week. And I think the difference is I'm more of a believer in TCU's offense. Javon Boykin's coming off his worst game of the season, arguably, last week against West Virginia. And I think it's going to be tough for him without B.J. Catalon, the speedster out of the backfield with him and kind of his partner in crime. But for some reason, I can't pick against TCU. I'm a believer in this team this year. And I think they've been through so much adversity. The way they responded after that Baylor loss and just how they put together that win last week, I'm all aboard to TCU to the first college football playoff express in the battle of the purple schools. I dogged on Gary Patterson saying Cliff Kingsbury was the better-looking coach. Well, Gary, you're the better-looking coach this week. Don't let me down. Go get the win.
Hey, don't count out Bill Snyder. He's a handsome guy, and he's got a handsome program
He
there.
had his heyday.
Isn't it fun that we're talking about this game, highlighting this game, and not the Baylor Oklahoma game? That's pretty cool. Like you said, Alex, these two teams have been good programs for a while, but they haven't been like competing like one game playoff for the Big 12. That's what this basically is.
And really, the Big 12 needs TCU to win this game. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, really, but that does kind of mean something. I don't think Kansas State is going to be able to run the table if they can beat TCU this week. Their schedule is just too hard. I mean, especially when you talk about the sequencing of games, even if they get through the TCU game, just the quality of the opposition, and they're going to have to win on the road in so many of these games. I don't think they're going to get it done. Big 12 needs TCU to win this game. Let's see if they can step up tomorrow.
All right, should be a good one. Moving out, headed towards the east, staying in the Midwest, you got Ohio State and Michigan State. This is going to be a big game. These are apparently the only two teams in the Big Ten. Uh, Michigan State's only loss came on the road at Oregon. Ohio State's loss was early in the season to Virginia Tech. That was a disappointing loss for them, but I think Urban Meyer has this team on the rebound. They've been playing well as of late. Aside from that overtime win against Penn State, they've been destroying the competition. The offense is clicking. And this is going to be a battle of strength versus strength. Michigan State has a great run defense. Ohio State has a great rushing offense. The only thing is, the last time Michigan State played a really good rushing offense, like when we talked about it, it was Indiana, but Indiana was one-dimensional, so Michigan State was able to contain that. And the other two times they played good rushing offenses who had dual-threat quarterbacks was Nebraska with the 5-point win, and then Oregon with a 19-point loss. I think that this could be a tough game against Ohio State, even at home. I'm going to surprise some people. I'm going to say the Buckeyes. I just like what JT Barrett has been doing. I think that Michigan State, I think this will be kind of the letdown game. They've been a good program the last few years, but they haven't been able to quite take that next step. I think Ohio State, Urban Meyer, he's going to have Ohio State in contention for the playoffs, and starts with the win this week.
For me, I'm looking at three areas where Michigan State has an advantage. I think they've got the better quarterback. I think they've got the better defense, and they're playing at home. So it's hard to pick against Urban Meyer in the regular season, but I'm liking Michigan State for this one. That's all I really have to say.
It's crazy. If you look at these two teams statistically, they're really, really similar in terms of yards per play, yards per carry, on offense, and even on defense, the yards given up. But the difference between the Michigan State defense and the Ohio State defense, Michigan State's defense knows how to get off the field. They're they're number one in the country in efficiency from the defensive side of the ball, which means that when it gets into leverage situations, they get off the field. And I think at home, an experienced Michigan State team that's beaten Ohio State, this isn't like a hump game like Ohio State was a couple of years ago for Michigan State. Michigan State's kind of asserted themselves as the dominant team in the Big Ten these last couple of years. And I think Ohio State doesn't have the experience or leadership to get it done. Urban Meyer's Ohio State teams have kind of been talented enough to win big against not very talented teams, but once they get into the big game, they haven't been able to get it done. And I don't think that trend is going to be changed tomorrow night. JT Barrett, he's had a solid year, but I mean, we saw when they went to Penn State. That was his first true road test, and this is not a good Penn State team we're talking about, and they took them to overtime. I think Michigan State, that offense is not a liability anymore. That's a very talented offense. They've been putting up points all season long, and that's a big difference from last year. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State wins by 3 touchdowns, to be honest with you. I think they're the more experienced squad. They're on a mission after that Oregon game, and I think they're going to get it done pretty handily.
All right.
I like that upset special, though, Blake.
Yeah, I'm telling you, JT Barrett might not be the fifth-year senior, but he comes from a military background, so you better believe that he's just going to be ready for tough situations. Um, moving out, wouldn't be a show if we didn't talk about the SEC. You know, we all depend on the SEC to make our money, so of course we got to talk about them. We got Alabama going to Death Valley to play LSU. We all know what it's like to play. Yeah, we all know what it's like to play in Death Valley. You know, it's always a tough environment. Les Miles has been a great coach there, has a tremendous winning percentage at home at night. Um, Alabama, though, I think they're a completely different team from Ole Miss. I think that they have better coaching. And yes, I do think Lane Kiffin is a good coach. Keep in mind, this is his first year, so of course there's going to be some bumps, but they have been playing well on offense. I think that the difference between Alabama and Ole Miss when it comes to playing against LSU is going to be the run game. Alabama is terrific. They have a lot of weapons, and they can consistently run the ball where Ole Miss struggled, and that led to them not playing well against LSU's athletic defense. Alabama also, on the defensive side, they should be a little bit better. LSU, we all know, is one-dimensional, and I think if you give Kirby Smart a bye week, so he gets 2 weeks to prepare for this LSU offense, he should be able to shut him down. All in all, I think Alabama is just going to be too much. It will be close. These games always are, but I think Alabama pulls away in the fourth quarter.
LSU night game, yeah. Great atmosphere. I just love seeing that eye at the 50-yard line, that Tiger's eye. SEC West gets really interesting, though, if LSU wins. I mean, could you imagine we'd have 3 two-loss teams, Mississippi State undefeated with a tough schedule, Auburn, tough schedule as well. Of course, I got to play the Iron Bowl. Yeah, things get really interesting. And, hey, you never know if there's enough carnage. SEC, I mean, I've said it before that I think the SEC champion is an automatic qualifier for the 14 playoff. But things could get interesting here with an LSU win. I got to take Alabama, though. Blake Sims, second QBR in the nation. Very impressive. I'm going to mention him later in this show. So, yeah, I got the Crimson Tide.
So last year, LSU was able to give Alabama a little bit of problems because Mettenberger was able to throw the ball around the field, and LSU had Odell Beckham Jr. and had Jarvis Landry, 2 very talented receivers, which gave the Alabama corner some difficulties. But this year, LSU's so one-dimensional. It's hard to really ever pick them in a big game in the SEC when you can't rely on that passing game. But then at the same time, they were so dominant running the ball with that 3-headed attack that they have with Hilliard, Fournette, and McGee. But they dominated the time of possession against Ole Miss, and I think they played defense with their offense. They were able to keep their defense fresh. They were able to keep Ole Miss's offense from getting in a rhythm, which allowed them to escape only with 10 points and a win. So I'm having a hard time picking LSU just for the offense, but there's something weird about playing in Baton Rouge on a Saturday night against Bama. It's the Mad Hatter. Weird things happen in the South in November. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Alabama, and I'm going to ask you guys a question really quick. Why isn't Blake Sims in the Heisman race? Why does no one bring up Blake Sims? It's funny to me because A.J. McCarron, he was a star quarterback at Alabama, and the media loved talking about A.J. McCarron. Blake Sims has been a better quarterback all year long than A.J. McCarron ever was. This season, statistically, is better than any of A.J. McCarron's seasons, which is so ironic to me because people still refer to Blake Sims as a game manager. He's far from a game manager. And if he is a game manager, it's a dang good one because he knows, as the manager, all he has to do is get it to Amari Cooper, and he's going to put up his stats. And at the end of the day, that's the difference for me in this game is Amari Cooper. I'm not a firm believer in that Alabama running game. I think losing Kenyon Drake kind of hurt a dimension to that game. Their offensive line has been banged up. But I'm still going to take Alabama in a close game because of Amari Cooper and Blake Sims. I think that they're going to be able to control the ball, march down the field, score enough points to win the game.
So enough points, like 9 points to 6 points, or
No, this isn't going to be a field goal. This isn't going to be the game of the century, aka field goal penalty kick shootout.
Alex, to answer your question about the Heisman race, I think that the Alabama offense has struggled a little bit this year at times, although they've got it rolling now. I think that with Amari Cooper on the team also garnering Heisman attention, it kind of takes away from Blake Sims. When you have two Heisman contenders potentially on one team, it kind of hurts both of them. I don't know. Other than that, I think people maybe just kind of have that idea of the Alabama quarterback is always a game manager. So that is a good point, something to watch. Maybe somewhere down the line he gets in the conversation.
I mean, this is kind of a weird point for me to make. Usually I don't bring up race at all in college football. I don't think it's an issue. But there's something about the stereotypical Alabama quarterback being a white Southern boy, like A.J. McCarron, like John McElroy, or Greg McElroy. All these quarterbacks, they're that stereotypical Southern white boy. And Blake Sims, he breaks that mold. And for some reason, I don't know if it hurts him, but it's kind of, they gave him this, stereotype in the offseason that he's a game manager, and he hasn't been able to really break that mold, even though he's been so successful this season. But one thing that I forgot to mention is, as good as Alabama's offense has been at home this year, they've been a much different team on the road in SEC play. That the Ole Miss loss, they only scored 17 points. The Arkansas win, they won 14-13 on the road. Even that Tennessee game, they started out hot, but they weren't able to put Tennessee away until late in the game. So it's interesting to see how Alabama's going to play on the road. I mean, the bye week should help that offense, but we'll see.
Yeah. So that pretty much ends that part of the discussion for the big games. We will run through our picks for the week. We'll take it from the top. We got 25 Wisconsin going on the road against Purdue. I have Wisconsin winning easy. Mikey, who you got?
Wisconsin.
Drew Brees is going to be sad tomorrow. I got Wisconsin.
Okay. Let's see. We got Duke and Syracuse. I like Duke in this one. I think Duke, they could, if they could get to the ACC and beat Florida State, they'd have to be in the conversation for the playoffs. Even then, I don't know if they would be. But I think they definitely put themselves in that position. I see them winning out. I think Duke wins this one easy.
Yeah, I think Duke's going to move forward again and set up a good matchup with Florida State.
Yeah, David Cutcliffe's a great coach. I got Duke as well.
All right, staying in the ACC, Georgia Tech and NC State. That triple option, Paul Johnson, that's tough to defend. I like Georgia Tech in this one.
Georgia Tech.
I'm actually going to take the home team in this. I'm taking NC State. I think Jacoby Brissett's going to have a big game.
The Florida State fan is having flashbacks of Jacoby Brissett running all over his team. All right, West Virginia and Texas. I like West Virginia to bounce back against a struggling Texas team.
West Virginia, but I think it might be a little bit closer than people might think.
I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm taking Texas.
It's the Big 12 madness.
Yeah, I actually do know why. I don't have confidence in Clinton Trickett after the performance last week, and I think the Texas defense is good enough to win the game tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, I saw a Bleacher Report that Clinton Trickett left Florida State because Jameis Winston accidentally told him about the point shaving, and Clinton Trickett was going to expose him.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we got Georgia going on the road against Kentucky. I like Georgia to rebound against Kentucky. I think they get back on track in the East.
Yeah, I like Georgia as well.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Dogs as well.
All right, then we got this is a tough one. Out west, we got Arizona at home against Colorado. I think Arizona wins easy. I think they have a bounce back. I think their offense rolls.
Pretty soon here, we're gonna stop talking about Colorado like they're a rollover team, but maybe in a couple of years, uh, yeah, Arizona.
I could actually see this game being pretty close, but I'm going to take Arizona.
Not willing to go out on a limb in the West unless they're in the Big 12 conference.
Yeah.
All right, UCLA goes on the road to play Washington. This one could be interesting. I think that UCLA looked pretty good last week against Arizona. They played really, really well in defense. I like UCLA in this one.
Yeah, this is a tough one to pick. I'm gonna roll with Washington. Actually, I think Tyler Miles is a little young Keith Price, even though they're about the same age.
This game's got the look of a high school game. Each team plays their best player on both sides of the ball. You got Miles Jack, can do everything for UCLA, and Shaq Thompson for Washington does everything for them as well. But I'm going to take UCLA.
All right. Back to that Big 12 matchup we mentioned earlier. We got Baylor going on the road to Oklahoma. Baylor still has a shot in the Big 12. They need a little bit of help, but I think that their hopes end this week. I think Oklahoma wins.
I'm gonna take Baylor because Trevor Knight didn't call Katy Perry.
I'm not sold on Trevor Knight really as a big time college quarterback yet. I think they're too one-dimensional with throwing it to Sterling Shepard. I'm taking Baylor.
All right. Then we got another classic SEC primetime matchup, Ole Miss versus Presbyterian. I'm loving those late season FCS matchups. Ole Miss, obviously, huge.
You guys are gonna give me that win. You guys picked UCLA. I picked Washington. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Ole Miss by luck.
I don't even think there's words for this, so I'm just gonna pass.
Hey, 29 games, SEC. 29 conference games.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss loses in terms of perception. Moving on, we got, let's see, Auburn and Texas A&M. Early in the season, this looked like it'd be a marquee matchup, but Texas A&M's kind of been reeling. Auburn's just so good. I think that they win big, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, War Eagle.
Yeah, A&M squeaked out a huge win last week against Yale Monroe, 21-16. It really impressed me, and I think it's going to lead to them getting throttled this week by Auburn.
So that's a good call. Interesting to see how their new quarterback, Kyle Allen, plays. Then we got FSU and Virginia. Before the report came out, I would have picked FSU big, but sounds like Jameis might be doing some shaving here. I don't know. I think maybe Virginia keeps this one close for some unknown reason.
When Florida State loses this game, Jameis Winston's gonna get kicked out of the NCAA for shaving points. So yeah, no, I got Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, rumors have it Jameis Winston made a deal with the Devil that Florida State would go undefeated in the 2 years that he played there. But the only shaving Jameis Winston's doing is right up here. Something to note, Mike London has beat Florida State. Last time they were in Doak Campbell, they got the win a couple years ago against E.J. Manuel in Florida State. But I think it should be no problem.
Yeah, FSU will win big, and that's going to be disappointing for old incarcerated Bob. All right, last game. Mississippi State, surprise, surprise, UT Martin. This is their annual bye week. Look for Dak Prescott to get back on track and actually have decent numbers.
Hey man, #1 team in the nation. UT Martin. This is their the game of their lives, and I think Mississippi State only wins by like 28 or so.
I wonder if Dan Mullen's team knows any of the players' names on UT Martin. Have they actually watched film on them? I have Mississippi State in a row.
Pretty sure Mississippi State is just watching film of Alabama right now. Um, yeah, this is just a paycheck game. All right, but that'll wrap up our picks for the week. Stick around to see who's right and their selections for this week. Mikey, you want to take this one out?
What am I supposed to say right here?
Alex, where's your random report on Jameis Winston?
Well, Jameis Winston tomorrow, rumor has it that he's going to steal some crab legs on the way to the game, but he might be late because he's been signing autographs. Well, and his cell phone connection has been kind of spotty with his good high school pal down at UAB, who's actually been point shaving with him all season and actually did it last year. But we'll see if Jameis can stop himself from standing up and running up to the top of the PA system and yelling something obscene before the game and can actually get in the game and make some plays. That'll about wrap it up for this week's show. Yeah, like Blake said, stay tuned to see Alex go perfect this week in all of his predictions and picks. And yeah, enjoy this week 11 of college football.
Hey, make sure to follow us on Twitter or the at triple option _. And we live tweet a lot of the games. And like this is a huge week, so I'm going to be glued to the TV. So yeah, cool. Thanks, guys.